Hello everyone, this is HammerTron here with a new action figure review video for you. This time I am reviewing an action figure 2-pack from the movie The Legend of the White Dragon. This was released in 2023. This is produced by Valaverse under license from whoever owns The Legend of the White Dragon, which is a movie, maybe the last movie that Jason David Frankk was in before he tragically passed away. And I don't think this movie has been released yet as of 2025 when this video goes out. So here is the packaging. Nice window package. We have 2 action figures, a couple of sets of hands, extra hands, action figure stands. So nice packaging. I like window boxes so we can see what we are getting. Here is the front of the package. Here is the top. And the bottom with some manufacturing information. And there is one side and the other side. And here is the back. So I will open this up and review the action figures themselves in a moment. Here are the accessories that come with the Legend of the White Dragon 2-pack. We have a couple of action figure stands here with 6 pegs in each one for multiple display options or poses. Several pairs of extra hands plus an extra head sculpt, human head sculpt. I like to keep the packaging and keep everything in packaging. I rarely use extra hands. And it also looks kind of nice in a display. If I want to keep the action figure in the display, I'll put them back in and display it in the package sometimes, or sometimes take them out and display them on the shelf. Here's a close-up of the human heads for the action figures. This one is for the Jason David Frankk character. So I think it kind of looks like Jason David Frankk, a little bit older than when he was in Power Rangers. So seems to look pretty good there. And there's the hole in the head to put it on the body. And here's the head for the other person. I don't know who that person is, but I'm guessing this looks like it's that actor. They put some hair on this one, a lot of hair, so lots of nice work on the sculpted details there. Here we have White Dragon on the left and Dragon Prime on the right. They look pretty cool. They are actually identical. They just have different colors. So let's see how tall they are. According to the tape measure, they are about 6 3/4 inches tall, or about 16.5 centimeters tall. So that's a nicely sized action figure. It fits in with all the other 1/12 scale or 6-inch scale action figures. And we'll take a closer look at them. And we can see that they are actually identical molds. They are just different colors. So everything is identical from the head to this extra collar piece or whatever this part is. The blades are identical on this wrist gauntlet. So identical blades, just different colors. Nice translucent colors. Kind of a reddish orange for Dragon Prime. Perhaps a little bluish tint for the White Dragon. And the bodies are completely identical, just different colors. Lots of nice sculpted details. The boots are the same. Peg holes on the heels. Some nice details on the back. Just different colors, but the same mold. So I like how they look. They look pretty cool. Let's see if I can get him to stand. There we go. And the plastic for the action figure, the arms, the legs, the body, it's pretty hard plastic. A little bit softer, pliable plastic, although kind of stiff for the blade here. And for the wrist gauntlet, that moves, so that can be removed. This chest piece, or whatever it is, that's a softer, more pliable plastic. And that just fits on over the top of the body. And the head feels, well, not quite as hard as the arms and legs and body, but it's still kind of a hard, stiff plastic. So they look nice. Now, considering that they are identical, I will do the articulation on just one of these. We'll start with the White Dragon. Now, I've been playing around with these for a little bit, so I think I've had better luck with the joints on this White Dragon compared to the Dragon Prime. Even though they're identical, the joints just seem to be working a little better for me on this White Dragon. So with the head, you can look up and look down and turn side to side, and some head tilting there. At the shoulders, we do have butterfly joints, so that is working there, and that one is working there. We can move the arms out just that far. This one's a bit stiffer. We can only go about that far because of this piece here, which interferes with the articulation there. That piece sticks up a little bit. An extra piece glued on, but it kind of sticks up and prevents more articulation. Otherwise, I think the arms would go up a little more. And they move around. They would actually go all the way around, except this collar piece with the shoulder piece gets in the way. But both sides are working nicely. That one's stiff, but that is working. There is a bicep cut there, so that one is working, and this one is working. We have double jointed elbows that go in that far. That's pretty good. And this side moves in that far, very nice. And at the wrist, they do twist, so that one twists, and there's a hinge. So that is working. And the same thing on this side. There's a twist for the wrist, although that blade gets in the way a little bit. And there is a hinge. So that is working. So that is nice. That's working. And I think these hands are removable. We saw in the package there are lots of extra hands, so we can pull these out. When we pull these out, we can also remove this gauntlet with the wrist blade here. And that part, actually, we can move it because it's just a floating piece that's held in place by the hand there. Now we have a diaphragm cut, which kind of jiggles. I don't get very much movement out of that, so there's probably a little ball up in there, and I can't really get it to do much more than wiggle. Now we probably have a ball joint here at the waist, so I can jiggle that around a little bit. I can't seem to get very much movement out of that. Now what's interesting is On the Dragon Prime figure, at the waist joint, I can actually get more movement out of the ball joint at the waist joint. So on the Dragon Prime, this is one of the joints that works better on this one than the White Dragon. So at the waist, that ball joint seems to be working better for me. And at the hips, we can get him to do the splits. So very wide splits. Now with these kind of hip joints, it's actually a drop down hip joint. So when we do the splits like that, we can see that it drops down, so we can just push that back up. And the drop down is meant to give us more articulation. At the hips, you can kick forward that far and not really kick back. On this side, you can kick forward that far and not really kick back. Although the reason why you can kick that high is because the drop down hip does move down, so we can just push that back up. And we have an upper thigh cut, so that is working here. That is working here. At the knee joints, we have double jointed knees. Those are pretty tightly ratcheted, but I can get them that far, so that's pretty good. So you might hear the snapping of the ratcheted joints in the knees there. And this side's a bit looser, so that's working nicely. Yeah, that knee joint is a bit looser. And we do have boot cuts here, so that is working just a little bit, because this extra piece on the front is getting in the way of the movement, so it doesn't go all the way around. So this side works too at the boot cut. And at the ankles, they are very tightly ratcheted, so you can go down that far, maybe a little bit further, although I don't want to push too hard. Now after playing around with this for a little while, the joints are loosening up a bit, so I'm actually getting this farther than usual, or lately. So they go up that far. And ankle pivots, these are pretty loose right out of the package. So all the joints seem to be working. Some of them are pretty tight, like this waist joint, extremely tight on this particular action figure. Now even though the White Dragon and Dragon Prime are identical, some of the joints work better on one and not very well on the other. Like here, I cannot get this boot cut to turn at all. That is just really stuck. Also, the ankle joints on this Dragon Prime were much stiffer, so I can't really get him to go on tippy toes. I might have to use a hair dryer to warm it up to push it more. I'm afraid to push it too hard because I just don't want to break it. You know, these action figures do cost money, so I don't want to break them. So all these joints are working pretty nicely, very similarly, although this one's just not working. So they're stiff in some places and loosening up quite a bit, although it's a bit alarming how quickly they loosen up, because I've only been playing around with this today. But I'm happy about how they look. They look cool, and the joints for the most part are working. I'll just have to work on them a little more. I just hope they don't get too loose too soon. But pretty nice little action figures there. Here are White Dragon and Dragon Prime next to a pair of 4-inch action figures. On the right is an adventurer from an Animal Planet set I reviewed a while ago. On the left is the Fortnite Jonesy action figure by Jazzwares. Here are White Dragon and Dragon Prime next to a pair of 6-inch action figures. These are the Power Rangers Lightning Collection, Mighty Morphin White Ranger on the left, and the Power Rangers Zeo Red Ranger on the right. And those two Rangers were played by Jason David Frankk, who also plays the White Dragon in Legend of the White Dragon. So it looks like the Lightning Collection action figures are a little bit smaller than the Legend of the White Dragon action figures by Valaverse. Here are White Dragon and Dragon Prime next to a 6-inch scale action figure on the left. The Action Force Condor action figure by Valaverse, the same company that made the Legend of the White Dragon action figures, so they're about the same size. And a 7-inch scale action figure on the right. The Masters of the Universe Masterverse He-Man action figure by Mattel. And of course these fit in very nicely with the Action Force action figures because they're the same scale and made by the same company. They also work with a 7-inch scale action figure like He-Man, where He-Man might be a larger than normal barbarian type character. I like these action figures based on the Legend of the White Dragon, although that movie hasn't been released yet as far as I know. Looks like it might be an interesting movie based on these characters, and it's probably pretty similar to the Power Rangers or the original Japanese Super Sentai in some way. So maybe someday we'll see that movie. But these action figures look pretty nice, and they are identical, just different colors. And if that's the way it is in the movie, then that's fine. I'm just a little disappointed with how some of the joints didn't work very well. Even though they're identical, the joints worked a little differently on each one. The ankle joints, the ankle pivots were very loose on all of them right out of the package. And this boot cut here on Dragon Prime is not working for me at all. And the waist joint here seems to be extremely limited on White Dragon, whereas it works a little better on this Dragon Prime. And the hands and heads, I'm sure that they will pop on and off, although I very rarely do that with action figures, because when I was a kid, action figures didn't do that, and if a head came off, that means it was broken. So I very rarely do that nowadays. So all in all, it's a pretty nice looking set of action figures, and I'm happy that they're a 6-inch scale with the same type articulation along with the Action Force or other similar type action figures, so I can mix them in with a variety of displays and dioramas with other action figures for my own entertainment. So thank you for watching my review video. Remember to like the video, leave a comment, let me know what you think of these action figures, and subscribe to my channel to keep up to date with my future reviews and commentaries. I will see you next time. Bye.